I don't really care because I don't sign the contract. So I don't really. Yeah, I'm saying I don't sign it, so I'm not really overly concerned. And what the state does, but who knows how they. Yeah, but if you don't pay them, they'll just garnish it at the state. Right, but they'll hold it back from your property tax or your income tax, or your property tax. They'll hold it, and they won't if you didn't pay them. So they have a way to get paid.
Yeah, this is just for first reading.
Yeah, okay.
Think?
Yeah. It's first reading right here.
Oh, my stuff looks so big.
Yes. No? I did not make them. Nope.
I now call the Norton City Council meeting to order for Monday, February 13th, 2017. The time is 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Mrs. Richards, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Pelot?
Here.
Mr. Kernan?
Here.
Mr. Pearson?
Here.
Mr. Towsley?
Here.
Mr. McGlone?
Mr. McGlone's excused.
And Ms. Whipke?
Here. First thing up is the Committee of the Whole, reports from standing committees. Before we get started on that, I'd just like to make a short announcement about our live stream update. We've been experiencing problems, technical issues with the live streaming, and the city and the engineers from Livestream have been working on this for the last couple of weeks. Lots of emails, lots of phone calls, lots of complaints. We had used the older system last week because we realized that the new system was having problems. And tonight we're using the new stuff, and hopefully there's a patch there that's going to take care of it. And just want to remind everybody, we cannot control your bandwidth or your internet speed for your home computer system, and that would be an issue on your end and not ours. The engineer at Livestream also is saying that using a smartphone is not always the best device for streaming videos. Just so everybody's aware of what's happening tonight. Thank you. First thing up on our agenda is the Fitch bond rating upgrade. That falls to me. And it's been quite a few years since Norton's had a higher rating than A anyway. I know at least going back to 2008. And it's my understanding this is a really good thing for us, that it's going to allow us to get money, financing cheaper, perhaps more grants, raises our status all the way around. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Carr.
Actually, I think the mayor is going to start out.
The mayor?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yes, that is correct. Like I said, as of Friday, we received notice from Fitch that we've gone from the A+ rating to a AA. It's great news for the city. It will allow several different opportunities. Basically, it will improve in current and projected growth, economic growth, solid expenditure controls, low long-term liability burden, Norton's ability to build strong reserves during the economic recovery. The rating will allow Norton to obtain lower interest rates and save residents money, as you had previously stated. And I really want to put out an opportunity to thank my city administrator, Valerie Carr, and my finance director, Ron Messner, for all the work that they did to get us to this point. Like I said, we've had several meetings with the bond people prior to, and like I said, prior to the ratings that came out. And I think the city is in good shape. And like I said, I believe it's a good thing for the city of Norton. So, Valerie Carr, would you like to?
I just want to add, it's very much a team effort. Certainly, Mr. Messner should be congratulated on keeping the finances on track. But I also want to say thank you to City Council for supporting our efforts, and really our entire staff at the city, because, we are really trying to move forward as a group. And this is something that's a great accomplishment, and it doesn't take just one person, it takes several. And I do want to say, I know the sewer project was controversial, and I don't want to dwell on that. But you'll see in the full report, I do believe one of the things that helped us get over the hump was that Fitch saw that we were stronger in the sense that we can provide that utility, which, if we get it in the right places, can spur economic development. So they asked us a lot of questions on that. In fact, they wanted to see a map of our areas where we could develop. So once they asked that, we all were like, we're going to get an upgrade. I think we're going to get an upgrade. So we're very excited about it. And again, thank you for everyone's efforts, especially Mr. Messner. And we have tonight, we're handing out just a little token, just kind of something fun to commemorate the night that, we got a AA rating. So everyone gets a AA battery if they're here at the meeting tonight. And I think I missed Judith, so I will come get you a battery. So thank you again.
Anyone else on council?
Just like to congratulate Mr. Messner and his department. Awesome job.
Thank you. And I would like to add, I was negligent in saying that this is basically a new administration, and they've actually been able to pull this off to bring us up. Because like I said, it's been many years since we've seen this. I know at least going back to '08, and I believe before that. With that said, we'll move on to acknowledging the receipt of the January 2017 budget reports, and we acknowledge those from Mr. Messner. Item C, amend Ordinance 1, 2017, and that belongs to Mr. Towsley.
Thank you, Madam President. This was briefly touched on last week. Tonight we have a second reading on the codified ordinances that we do every year, but somewhere along the line, Ordinance 85, 2015 was not marked in our exhibit. So I need to make a motion to amend the exhibit to include Ordinance 85, 2015. And for the public's knowledge, that was an ordinance that allows for refreshments during certain city meetings. It was for $234.14. So I do make the motion to add that.
I'll second.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Ms. Whipke?
Yes. Appointment to the BZA, and again, this falls to Mr. Towsley.
Thanks again, Madam President. The mayor has, we've had a person not seek re-election to their, or reappointment, I guess you should say, to their term on the BZA, and the mayor has picked an appointment, and that is Andrew Mullins for the at-large position. And tonight I'd like to ask Mr. Mullins to come forward for a moment in case council has any questions for him. And Mr. Mullins, if you want to give us just a brief statement.
2886 Wilbanks Drive. Any questions? Or you want me to tell me? I'll tell about myself. I'm not an architect, just so everybody knows, but I have had experience with building projects. As a matter of fact, if you ever go to Jersey City and see One Pershing Plaza, I actually got an award for part of my development of that building. So I do have experience with building and planning of architectural designs and things.
So, Mr. Mullins, your expertise would be bringing finance to it, I believe.
Some finance, but more overall, just general information, general help with it.
Any other questions? I don't believe there will be any more, but I would like to thank you, Mr. Mullins, for stepping up and asking to fill this seat. It's much appreciated, and just over the last couple of years where I've seen you in the audience a lot, and where you also served as the chair for the Charter Review Commission, I think you did it honorably and well, and I appreciate you stepping up.
That's it?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
And with that, I would like to add to tonight's agenda just a first reading on the appointment of Mr. Mullins. And as just a note to council, there are 7 more reappointments that we will discuss at next week's committee meeting. But for all of council, I didn't plan on speaking to any of these because we've met all of them in the past, but if for some reason you have a desire, please see me later about that, and we can have them in. So.
A second.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
And Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And I believe that takes care of our committee of the whole. Next thing up, communications from the public. Okay, you're limited to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address when you come to the podium. And we only have one tonight. That's Mrs. Lane Tompkins.
Whoops. Excuse me while I hang onto my cane. Okay, good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, and officials of finance and administration. It's been many weeks since I attended a city meeting, but tonight was essential that I got here to attend so that I could say to you, to all of you, my personal congratulations on jobs well done. As most of you know, it was not unusual to find my name among past speakers to strongly comment on unusual recorded financial matters, possibly costing taxpayers more money if not reviewed and or corrected. And of course, the annual report by us Ohio auditors always provided lots of reading with suggestions on how to improve management and financial matters on a daily or monthly basis. Now, the good news is that despite lots of questions and hand-wringing at this very podium, including me, questioning how Norton manages taxpayer dollar monies to the benefit of all members of residents, and also so many efforts by management and staff to meet all requirements and to satisfy all parties, the combined work of all the members of staff has finally been recognized. Ohio State Auditor David Yost presented the City of Norton with the Taxpayer Hero Award, reflecting a perfect score of 17 on the city financial health indicator. Surprisingly, only 3 other Summit County communities received that commendation, as well as only 8% of the other cities in Ohio. Now comes even better news. Fitch Ratings upgraded Norton's financial long-term general obligation debt management by 2 steps, from A+ to AA. The upgrade was based on improved current and projected economic growth, as well as strong budget management with rapidly rebuilt reserves. As noted by the mayor, the budgetary process was overhauled to reduce costs and to reorganize our local government to provide better services to its residents. Also noted was the SWS-COG, the Regional Dispatch Center between Norton, Barberton, and Copley, as well as the recent SOAR agreement between Barberton and Norton. In light of all of these developments, Norton's administration and staff at all levels.
Excuse me, can you take your folder off the mic there?
I'm sorry,
It's
I
just going to,
apologize.
it's going to distort what you had to
Okay,
say.
well, it's all right. I'm almost done, too.
You're
In light
fine.
of all the developments, the Norton administration and staff at all levels deserves a big thank you from Norton residents in all areas, saying, congratulations, you have made our city proud. And thank you for your time, Elaine Tompkins. That's me. So I didn't say I wanted to put in, I hope when pay increases come that everyone will be acknowledged accordingly with their hard work. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Mrs. Tompkins.
Consideration of minutes is up next. Minutes of January 23rd, 2017, regular council meeting. Are there any additional corrections?
I have none.
Minutes are approved as submitted. Minutes of February 6, 2017, committee work session. Are there any additions or corrections?
I have none.
Minutes are approved as submitted. Reports from officers, boards, and commissions. Mayor Zita.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to announce that, I guess late last week, signs were put up in throughout Norton in the area of Greenwich Road and the golf course in regards to it's a bridge culvert reconstruction. That is 100% Summit County engineer funded, but I know the question being was there's going to be some road closures and some delays and such, and I expressed to some of the residents that as soon as we got more information, I would share that. We will have more information up and coming, but I do know for a fact at this point in time that it will not be until after the 1st of March. So like in the first week of March is probably when it will start. And like I said, I believe it's like 2 weeks. Is that what you said, 2 weeks?
They're hoping
Ish, 2 to 3 weeks, it'll be completed. So in that period of time. But like I said, it won't be until after the 1st of March. I know the signs were already put up, which kind of caused a little bit of a panic, but we still got a couple weeks yet before anything gets started. So that's all I have at this point in time. Thank you.
Mrs. Carr?
I just want to remind everyone at the committee meeting for next week, we'll be talking about the Nash Heights project, specifically some of the funding, but I will also be providing you information that will be shared with the residents as well. It looks like most likely mobilization will start March 1st. So we'll be getting some information out to the residents, and I'll be sharing all of that next week. If you have any questions ahead of that, though, please call me, and I'll try to answer anything I can.
Did you say March 1st?
Yeah, that's their goal date for mobilization, based on weather, of course.
Mr. Messner?
The only thing I have, Madam President, is just to thank Mr. Markey for his help and guidance through the Fitch bond rating. He was helpful and walked with us each step of the way, so thank you, Justin, for your assistance.
Thank you, Justin.
Mr. Markey?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. There are no public hearings tonight, so we'll move on to the introduction of new legislation. Ordinance 12, 2017 is up for the first reading, and Mr. Pearson.
Yes, I'd like to offer ordinance 12, 2017. Carla, would you first reading of that?
An ordinance providing consent to the Ohio Department of Transportation regarding the project designated as D04-SP-FY 2017 West and declaring an emergency.
This is allowing our authorization. I would like to waive the second and third reading. Could I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Very good. Carla, would you call the roll?
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
And Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
I'd like to adopt ordinance 12, 2017. Carla, would you please call the roll? No, need a
I'll
second.
second.
There you go. Moving too fast. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
And Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 13, 2017, that falls to me for finance. And this first reading, I ask the clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance adopting an investment policy for the City of Norton pursuant to Section 135.14 of the Ohio Revised Code and repealing Sections 234.03 and 234.13 of the codified ordinances of the city.
Okay, basically, this is updating a policy that we can go ahead and make investments, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Messner. And it hasn't been updated for years and years and years. It'll allow us to be able to actually acquire more interest on anything that we invest. And we're repealing Section 234 that was originally passed in 1977 and 234.13, which are basically obsolete with this. And we're almost bound by the state to do this. I really don't see why we're not just waiving the second and third readings and getting it out of our way. There's nothing we can really do about it. It's an important thing, and maybe it could help us at moving forward on some of these things. So at this time, I would make a motion to waive the second and third readings.
I'll second.
Thank you. At this time, I would make a motion to adopt.
Wait.
Sorry, roll call.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Mr. Towesley?
No.
At this time, I would make a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is ordinance 14, 2017. Again, this falls to me. For a first reading only, I ask clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance authorizing the administrative officer or her designee to enter into an agreement with Blue Technology Smart Solutions for scanning services and declaring an emergency.
First reading only. Introduction of prior legislation.
We need ordinance
Oh,
15.
we added ordinance
ordinance
15.
in the BZA.
Ordinance 15. Okay, ordinance 15, resolution, isn't it? Or is it?
I'm sorry, yes. it is a
Resolution 15, and that's Mr. Towesley's.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I offer Resolution 15, 2017, and ask the clerk to read it, please.
A resolution confirming the appointment of Andrew Mullins to a 3-year term as an at-large representative on the City of Norton Board of Zoning and Appeals and declaring an emergency.
First reading only.
Now we'll go on to introduction of prior legislation.
Before we move on, do we have enough personnel to take care of business on the BZA at this point in time?
Yes, the candidate that will be leaving will be in her seat until 28th of February. So anything that, as long as we can get Mr. Mullins in place by that time, we should be okay, and she'll be going out, he'll be coming in, we'll be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Introduction of prior legislation, ordinance 1, 2017. Mr. Towesley.
Thank you, Madam President. I offer amended Ordinance 1, 2017 for its second reading, and ask the clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances, approving, adopting, and acting new matter in the updated and revised codified ordinances, repealing ordinances and resolutions in conflict therewith, and declaring an emergency.
Second reading only.
Ordinance 3, 2017. Mr. Kernan.
Thank you, Madam President. I offer Ordinance 3, 2017 for its second reading and ask the clerk to read it.
An ordinance to authorize the administrative officer to enter into an agreement with Insight Advisory Group, LLC, for economic development consulting services and declaring an emergency.
It's just a second reading. Thank you, Carla.
Resolution 4, 2017. Mr. Pearson.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Resolution 4, 2017 for its second reading. Carla, would you please read the,
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing the administrative officer to request to participate in the Summit County Engineers Office Road Maintenance Program, authorizing the administrative officer to execute and deliver an agreement with the County of Summit for such program and declaring an emergency.
second reading only?
And at this point, I guess I'd ask, why aren't we moving forward with this? The reason I ask is because in the past, sometimes cities have had difficulties in moving forward with their projects. And if we were to have this in place, maybe we could even get moved up on starting some of our programs.
Do we have a pending project that requires some emergency action or passing this?
I'm not sure if we do at the moment actually have a pending program, or a pending project, rather.
Unless it's an emergency that it needs immediate action, as Mr. Tosley's pointed out on many occasions, I'd like to see it go to 3 readings.
I guess, Ms. Whipke, if you're asking me.
Yeah, we got something that's coming up that would facilitate us to.
Yeah, on this one, this is, no, we're probably fine on
I was
this.
going to say, I guess I would ask it more plainly, is there any emergency here?
No, I don't think
Okay.
there's an emergency.
Okay,
on this.
thank you. Let's leave it as it is. Thank you, Carl.
Okay.
Then I guess it would be Resolution 5. Would we bring this up now, too? Mr. Towsley?
Is that the one we added
Oh,
tonight?
that was earlier, 15.
Is that going to be ready? I'm a little confused. 'Cause it's not
Oh,
in
that's
my-
prior legislation, never mind, sorry.
Okay.
Ordinance 7, 2017, Mr. Pearson.
Excuse me, let's back up. You confused me with Mr. Tosley. You want to go to,
I think there's just some confusion with
okay,
Resolution
what's the,
15,
all right.
I think.
Carla, would you please read ordinance 7, 2017?
An ordinance providing consent to the Ohio Department of Transportation regarding the project designated as some Cleveland-Maslin Road CR-17.
Very good. Second reading only.
And again, I'd ask the same question. This is costing us nothing. This is the county doing it. Why would we even have a problem with going ahead and passing it?
Mrs. Whipke, I want to clarify. This is, if I remember.
Isn't this in front of KDA?
This is the 31st in Cleveland-Maslin paving. I think you're thinking of the 21.
No, I'm thinking of the one
It's
down
not
in
the
front of
county.
KDA.
It's ODOT. It's
In
ODOT.
Barberton.
Yeah, okay. I just
And that's,
wanted-
we're not paying anything for it.
Correct.
That's why I said, why
But
drag
we're
our
6 months
feet?
out, aren't we?
Oh, not 6 months out. No. This will start in the
What's your
spring.
time frame?
As soon as the weather breaks, I mean, they want to get this on their schedule.
So it won't be in the next 2 weeks, obviously. This is only February the
No, it won't be in the
13th.
next 2 weeks.
Let's go ahead to the third reading. That brings up any possible objections that we might have or discussions, so. Carla?
She already read it. We're on to ordinance. She already read it, right? So we're on to
Yeah.
ordinance 9.
So we're up
Right.
to ordinance 9.
Ordinance 9, and I ask the clerk to read it for the second reading.
An ordinance authorizing the administrative officer or her designee to enter into an agreement with Civic Plus for website design and maintenance services and declaring an emergency.
Second reading only. Unfinished business, is there any unfinished business come before council?
Madam President, if I
Yes.
could. Just if we could get an update just for public consumption regarding what's going on in Planning Commission with medical marijuana.
Basically what I told you this week? Okay, sure.
Yeah, basically what you told me this week.
Sure, Mr. Kernan.
Thank you.
The issue of medical marijuana has been moved to the Planning Commission. They asked for some specific materials that we're collecting for them, so we're hoping it'll be on their next agenda.
Okay.
And then they'll start discussing. But however, if there's anything specifically, they are looking for some guidance of what City Council's hoping
Okay.
to get back. So any feedback you could provide, if you want to provide it to me, I'll provide it to the chair. They were a little, I don't want to say uneasy, but not sure what City Council exactly wants them to focus on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and I get that. This is something that has to go through Planning Commission, right?
Well, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not sure it does. I think if city council wants to, I think the reason it was referred to planning commission was to look at particular zoning classifications.
Okay.
And see where it would be appropriate within the current zoning code.
okay.
So I think for the planning commission, they deal with zoning.
Right.
And so their recommendation could do with zoning classification. The council can do with that recommendation what it wants.
So I guess from my point of view, what I would be looking for as far as a recommendation would be just exactly that. What, if council were to decide, to allow these businesses to open in the city, what zoning classification would they be in? Could we create a separate zoning classification? And what their recommendation would be regarding that. And if their recommendation is that the city not do this, I want to hear that too.
Okay.
Okay?
That helps with the
Okay.
focus. Thank you.
Thank you. One other thing I just wanted to, before I move on, at Committee of the Whole next week, I will be the first person to admit that I'm a complete technology idiot, okay? I go into my office, I push the button on the computer, it comes on, and then I take my mouse and I click on stuff. So for my own benefit, I want to talk a little bit more about the scanning software and how that interfaces with the equipment we have and those types of things, because I know we talked about it a little bit, Mr. Messner, and I appreciate that, but for some reason not clicking in this brain of mine, and that's because I'm not real smart where that's concerned, so.
Would it be helpful if I had the representative?
That would be
of
great.
technology to come
That
and
would be
speak?
great. If you could have them here, that would be fantastic.
I'll do my best
Thank you.
to have Mr. Evans
Thank you.
here.
I want to step.
And that's
back.
it.
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I want to
I'm
step
sorry.
back what Mr. Kernan said originally. You mentioned zoning. Mr. Markey, Barber Road's already designated business. What zoning changes would you want to make for medical marijuana or suggest?
Well, I think it's really just picking, so we have the different types of zoning within business, right? And so just picking the right classifications, and Plan Commission's got to look at the map and figure out what the complementary uses are within that zoning classification. I mean,
Well, this would fall under as a pharmaceutical facility like any other drugstore, correct? I mean, isn't that what the license is being
That's-
granted to them?
that's a logical way of looking at it, yes.
Okay.
But I think it leaves us some discretion if we want to look at it differently than just a
Correct.
typical pharmaceutical.
Because there are, different interests that I'm sure they're collecting information on now that go into it, aside from just pharmaceuticals.
Well, the legislature has specifically allowed, has allowed municipalities to zone these things. I mean, that's been given, that power's been given to the municipality, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I would like to address Mrs. Whipke's remarks earlier about our live streaming. You know, this is historically, this goes back to November of 2012. We've not been able to do this, period, correctly. I get numerous complaints over it, which Mrs. Whipke acknowledged this evening. The Barber Herald was in here a couple of weeks ago with a handheld camera and was able to broadcast it on their website. Now, my suggestion would be this. One, the live stream be told they have until Monday to correct the situation totally or explain why they can't, and if so, fire them. They've had more than ample opportunity. If this was your money, you wouldn't like it, I wouldn't spend money like this, I would can them. Second thing, excuse me, am I interrupting you guys?
I want to make sure that he
Well, I
provides
mean,
me some
I
information.
flatly would tell them, straighten it out or you're fired. Done. I know we have a contract with them, Mr. Markey could look into that, because it's ridiculous this has went on this long and still having a situation. Secondly, perhaps for lack of better terminology, we have too many cooks in the kitchen. And since it is a console-related project, I'd like to see Mrs. Richards have total control of it and make recommendations of this council for where we need to go with it or bring people in for questioning. Perhaps that would help to resolve it. But I think it's totally inexcusable that it's went on this long and not being able to watch it when most communities around us can do it. And we seemingly cannot.
Has anybody checked it tonight? Did you look?
It looked fine to me earlier. I could hear it, I could
seems,
see
the
it.
problem is, it looks fine to the people sitting here, but I mean, and I'm not talking about the complaints I get from some of the regular people who complain that are quote-unquote whatever. This needs to work. And we've spent and spent and spent, and there's no excuse for spending money and getting another excuse. If this was private industry, they'd be fired, and I mean they'd be fired tomorrow morning. Now, I will give them benefit of the doubt and give them, 6 days to figure it out? If they can't, then can them. Find someone who can. I'd rather spend more money, because what we're spending ain't getting it there anyhow. This is ridiculous. I think council should agree. I mean, this is an ongoing complaint. I get texts continuously during the meetings. Can't hear it, can't see it, camera angle's gone, can't see people. And we spent for new speakers, new cameras. I believe and Mr. Messner, I believe you agreed that the physical side of it is correct. It works. Is an issue of getting it out from there.
I do know that we've gotten, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I do know that we've gotten a few emails in the last couple days indicating that they were working on it feverishly. Hopefully it's fixed tonight, and also that they were going to make some recompense for the time that it was not up and running. Am I correct about that?
Yes, Mr. Kernan, that's what I wanted to make sure, Mr. Pearson. I
Right,
don't know if you
I'm
read
aware of
those
that, but
emails.
you know what? Excuses are like you-know-whats. We all have one. We've had excuse after excuse after excuse. Either admit you can't, you're in over your head, you can't do it, or fix it. No more excuses. Get it done, or we'll find someone who can. And
Mr.
that's where it
Pearson,
should
I don't
lie.
think we disagree. I just want to make sure you've been fully updated with the emails that came
No,
out
I've
today.
read them. I mean,
I mean,
I know
directly
they've
from
given us
Lee's
credit in
live
the
stream.
past, and I appreciate the fact they did, but obviously, they're not providing the service. It's just like you, if you bought a car from a dealer and it wouldn't run, you'd be upset. And maybe that's a poor analogy, but it's the same thing. The taxpayers are spending money for the service. We were under a court order. Enough. Either fix it or you're done.
Mr. Pierce, I see you have your phone in front of you. Has anybody called or texted to complain tonight?
I got one that says unknown, and I haven't opened it yet, to be honest with you.
Mr. Pearson, if I may, I brought it up on my phone. It seemed to be working, Mr.
I know,
Markey.
in here, it always works. I mean,
No,
I'm
but if
not-
I was standing, like, if I was down at McDonald's, it would look the same on my phone. So and Mr. Messner, you're monitoring on the tablet?
I'm not on the Wi-Fi. I'm on my cellular network, and it's coming.
You know what, if it were one or two same people, I'd say, obviously it is a issue of their possible equipment, the lack of memory, the ability to, whatever. But I'm getting this from people throughout my ward, which is going clean up the Hametown.
And Mr. Pearson, I'm only speaking for tonight. We all, brought it up to check. It appears that it's functioning correctly tonight. So if there are people out there, please let us know if they're having any issues.
Well, you know what? We've had it before where it functions, and then the next day it doesn't function. We do the test, and Carl, am I incorrect that the test you do, it functions, and later on we have a problem?
Sometimes that has been the past. Today I tested twice with the patch that Livestream gave us today. He worked with Nick in IT. We got it dialed in twice. I did it 4 and again at 6. No problems, and I started it at 7, and we're not having any issues.
Okay, it works today. Like I said, I want these people's feet put to the fire. Just one or two times isn't making it. That should be able to turn on a switch like we talked about with Mr. Ring from the equipment company. It should always work. Plain and simple. And if it can't, you better have a good excuse. If not, you're done.
Well, that sentiment has been relayed to them on more than one occasion.
Writing?
Stronger each
Yes,
time.
in writing.
Yeah.
And then also, I guess I'd like some clarity. What is it you're wanting Mrs. Richards to do?
I'd like her to take control of it, have total say-so, and bring any suggestions or recommendations to council. Mr. Mester, obviously, his hands are full with everything else going on. This is a council function. She is clerk of council who works for us.
Well, there's
Perhaps,
never been anything that stopped her from bringing forth any recommendations or whatever that she's had.
I think it's easier to have a project under one person than multiple. That's what I'm saying. And I know Ron is busy with finance and other things he's doing. Maybe it'd take a little load off of him, and it would allow Mrs. Richards to concentrate. I spoke to this to her, and she's agreed. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. All I say is next Monday, it better work.
Well, I
Otherwise,
was-
these people can't.
Yeah, I was just going to say it may be a moot point, so let's see if the patch worked.
I have
And if
no
the patch
problem
doesn't work, then we
working
go
through the
from there.
bugs, But
No
I
longer-
am not an expert in audiovisual equipment. I'll do my best, and we'll try and work through it, and pray to God we don't have any issues tonight.
Let's just throw it on next Monday's agenda and just, see what feedback we get from tonight's meeting.
Mr. Messner?
I would say that, just for council's edification, that Carla has really, over the last 2 weeks, has really kind of had the lead in that. I've been backing her up. I've kept you all copied on the strong comments last week. I emailed Connie Dean's and Dell Nelson's comments, didn't change any language, sent it right straight to them and said, here's what we're facing in that. Mr. Pearson, I hear you, and I feel you in that, and I agree wholeheartedly. I have one concern. Livestream's one of the biggest ones out there. We've tested 4 of the majors. The other 3 didn't work. If you say fire Livestream, I don't know where to go. Does that mean we shut council down until we come up with something?
I
'Cause
always
that's
say
all we
this,
got.
Mr. Messner, if they're one of the largest ones out there, and something as simple as this, they can't get it right,
It's what it is. It's,
it's inexcusable. I don't believe it.
well, it's like every other piece of software. If there's bugs in the software and they have to look through a program that's this thick of software to find a couple little bugs, that just doesn't happen in an hour or a week or 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes a month to, whatever, in that. I'm happy tonight.
So
that
are they going to continuously then credit every time this doesn't work, give it the credit for it?
So far, as I've indicated in the email today, or Rachel indicated today, we've got 2 free months.
And if a citizen would bring a lawsuit for not performing our end of the court order, are they going to pay for a lawsuit?
I can't answer.
I mean, they need to straighten it out. I'll give them benefit of the doubt, but they've had benefit of the doubt for a long time.
We talked to their head support guy today, so we've got the head of development now looking into this. I think we can honestly say they've been talking to us. They're doing their best.
Well, not to
and
sound
tonight,
mean.
from what I can see, it is a whole lot better. It's 150% better than with the old camera in front of the podium. It's clear. The audio's coming through clear. I've checked it 2 or 3 times. I mean, you can walk down here and look for yourself and see what you think.
No, I believe you, and I know.
And I, God help us. I hope that it works from now on. I hope this is it. I hope they found it and it works. If it doesn't, I've expressed my frustration with Ms. Whipke. I've kept her advised each step of the way, as has Carla. We've done, it's not like we've been resting on our laurels.
No,
And
no
you're
one's
right.
got,
I've got
I'm not
plenty of other
blaming
things to do.
you. I'm saying we have a vendor that is working for us.
And
That cannot
I,
resolve it.
as I told Ms. Whipke this last week, and Charlotte, correct me if I'm wrong, but I basically said, we've got one last bullet in our gun, and that's to fire them. And if we do, I don't know where to go.
Perhaps we should talk to some of the communities around us that do it. Wadsworth, for one, they seem to have no problems.
They have their own. Wadsworth has their own network, their own system.
I mean, it's just inexcusable. I mean, I hate to see our spending money and getting an excuse continually.
Well, where I would agree a little bit with Mr. Pearson, I don't think it's being suggested that everyone doesn't work on it behind the scenes, but I think maybe from a public point of view, if the public has a complaint, everybody's pointing at everybody. And I think it would be good, one way or another, that we put one person in charge, so that person can have all the information and that answers can come. Because it seems like, as I'm reading the emails, I personally have not had complaints from people, but as I'm reading the emails, just as a result of how things are set up, there's fingers pointing everywhere, and there's no real answer for the people complaining. So I think it's a good idea, one way or another, to put someone in charge of the situation.
Currently, the way I understand it, is that Livestream is saying it is not on our end, it is not our equipment, it is on their end. They're doing what they can to try and get rid of the problem, and maybe we have. And I know that Carla has been in on all the emails. She's chimed in. She's given, she's here for the testing constantly, not just on the days of the meetings, but it goes on during the week as well. I know because I've viewed them. I've been here when they've done them. And I just am a little bit leery about putting any more responsibility upon her. And I guess I would have to defer to Mr. Markey, even wondering if there would be an issue with doing something like that, if you could let us know.
Well, I don't think there's an issue. The charter does say council and administration, but having one person spearhead the, I'll leave that to you guys to figure out, but the charter language puts it on both groups to work together and figure it out.
Didn't we pass an ordinance, though? Did that ordinance give just administration and their designee authorization to be able to do things?
They have authorization, right, but the charter says who's responsible, and it's both parties. So.
Okay. I just didn't know if we needed to amend something, if we changed anything.
No, I think this is more just a practical issue of who's doing it behind the scenes. I mean, it's not.
Well, if you want to bring Livestream in here Monday to defend themselves, that's fine.
I thought they should have been here tonight.
It needs to work from here on out. If it doesn't work, then you're going to figure out a way to do it. I don't see throwing more money on top of it when they can't do the job to begin with. I'd get rid of them. Plain and simple.
Well, I don't know what more money we could throw at it.
That's the point. We're throwing money and you're not getting any service for what you're spending. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. The taxpayers' money. I mean, it's just absolutely insanity They continually try to fix it. It doesn't get fixed. This has been going on and on and on.
Well, by tomorrow, we should know if there's any complaints or not, either through email or through the text things. And if something's going on, can we look at maybe getting them in here next week? Or is next week a...
They're in Brooklyn, New York. I don't know how easy it would be. to
Don't they
get
have a
somebody
local
down.
representative? A
No.
regional rep?
No.
We don't have a local office to
They're,
deal with.
they're out of Brooklyn,
None
New
of
York.
these places
Which
do.
companies have a local office that can be
None of them.
proactive to our concerns?
None that I'm aware of.
It's not just live stream, it's all of
No.
them
I
are like
mean,
that.
YouTube, you're not going to get an Akron office or a Cleveland office. Wowza is not in Ohio. They're in Detroit.
I think
Ron,
so.
can you remember?
Ustream's in California.
Yeah, you're not, these are national, huge companies. You're not going to pick them out of Akron or Canton to come and talk to us, unfortunately. And that's why some of the times when I made a recommendation to go to YouTube, you had no customer support. I thought, this isn't going to work for us. And then you get the pop-up ads. So we kind of ditched that idea. And we're still here with live stream, and they're working through with it. So I say give it another week and see where we are.
Well, let it rest another week, but
And I might point out, and Mr. Pearson, you and I discussed this when we met with Mr. Ring clear back then. I think council understands we'll never get 100%, never. It's just not going to be. If somebody has an old computer, if they have slow band speed, internet upload and all that, we can't control that. And you and I understand
Right.
that. So, I mean, are we ever going to get 100% where everybody loves? There's always going to be somebody that says, hey, didn't work for me. And frankly, I'm hoping that if we can get the majority happy, that's basically, because technically, when it comes right down to it, even through this little camera, even though it's not the best, we're meeting, I believe, our charter, what we're doing. It may not be the best, but
well, you know, it's a shame, Ron, that we bought new equipment
I-
and paid a very large price for that camera, and we're back to an $80 camera?
well, 80, but I don't disagree, Denny. I don't disagree. I'm with you 100%.
I mean, we spent money to resolve a situation. We changed equipment, the physical things within this chamber. And it's been agreed that it's been a streaming issue at this point, not enough speed, et cetera. That's what we need to concentrate on. That's what they have to provide an answer to. I want to hear somebody just say, okay, this is the problem definitively, and that we can't fix it because of this. I have not a problem with that. But this continually, well, we'll give you credit, we're working on this. No, excuses are ridiculous. I don't want to hear more
We have got
excuses.
live stream to admit it's their issue, it's not Mr. Ring, and it's not on our side. It is, they have admitted that, and they've got their engineering on it. That's why they continue to say, we're sorry, here's another free month. We're working, you know, I was somewhat encouraged today when the head of development called and said, I'm the manager of support and development, I'm on it. And I'm like, great. And he's the one that provided the patch. Like I say, it seems to work. Keep our fingers crossed and hope that,
Well, we'll give them another week and see what the complaints that come in. I usually get the calls. And you're right, if you get the same people complaining, that's going to be perhaps their equipment, et cetera. But when I
and
get
we
different
can-
people,
we can
that's
always
the problem.
potentially send out, you know, we've talked about potentially sending out one of our cruisers to park next to the house and see if they can get it on their system and, you know,
Before you go ahead, my wife just texted me and said hers is working perfect.
And it is work tonight, because one of the regular complainers has texted me that said he can hear it.
Is live stream,
Two things to celebrate.
sorry, is live stream providing daily updates to what they're doing, what they're finding, what they're working on?
I have pushed for that. They said they have made progress. I asked, please explain the progress, but they're just saying we're still working on it, and that's about all I get.
Well, if they've taken care of it and it's actually working, we're just beating a dead horse here at this time, so we'll have to wait
Well, if
and
it's
see.
hit
It
and miss,
sounds
we're
like
not.
it's coming in at the moment, and perhaps what they have done as taking care of the issue. We can only hope, but we won't know until after tonight.
Madam President?
Yes,
I see
Mr.
there's someone in the audience who'd like to speak to the issue, so I'd like to make a motion to open the floor to comments. Is there anyone who will second that?
Certainly.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
And Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Larry Perkins, 3844 South Knights Drive, Norton, Ohio. I switched from Time Warner programming to Spectrum programming. It's the same company, but my internet speed immediately jumped from 15 to 60. And I don't know what people are going to do as far as making the switch and how soon.
I did not understand what it is that you were asking.
My internet speed is now 4 times faster than it was last week.
From the Time Warner and
Spectrum.
Spectrum.
Spectrum took over Time Warner.
Spectrum bought-
Yeah, I knew that, but I don't have cable or anything like that, so you're talking well over my head. I don't know. Okay, that's nice.
Well, getting back to live stream, glitches happen. What you're looking for is consistency. I mean, occasionally you're going to have a problem. That's understandable, but we haven't had zero consistency, and that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'd like this general manager to address.
Is there any other unfinished business?
I have one, Madam President. A couple weeks ago, the administrator sent us out an email saying there was road borings that were going to be done. And specifically, I'm looking for Johnson Road. Have we had any?
Actually, they're going to be done tomorrow. We were delayed because of weather, and
So
I
they
just-
have not been done yet?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
got a note from Mr. White today that they're going to do them tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Along with that, is there any plans on going back and revisiting the ditches on Johnson Road? One of Mr. White's comments was the septics were supposedly injecting so much moisture into the roadbed it was breaking
Well,
it up.
that's part of the core, that's part of the borings.
That I driven, that discussion that night, I'd driven down Johnson Road and looked at it different areas, and there was a tremendous amount of water laying in the uneven ditches. It was not draining off. I mean, did we address that or even look at that yet?
But that was one of the things he said the borings would assist us to see how much is undermined. So I will, obviously, after we do the borings, we'll provide a report back.
On that note, for the ditches and the water laying there, I know that Mr. White had pointed out that it's not necessarily a septic system issue. It's just due to the fact that the storm water is not draining. Down on Akron Wadsworth, we had an issue with that, and where it looked, and everybody thought that there was a culvert where the ditch was covered. In truth, there was no culvert, which helped add to the problem of why the storm water wasn't getting down to Wolf Creek to drain. And it's been better down there ever since they took care of that and actually put in a pipe or dug out the ditch. And then there's also the thought process that it could be somebody's culvert in their driveway could be clogged, which also would keep it from draining and having it leach out into the road. Just food for thought, not necessarily anything to do with somebody's septic system or anything else. It's just a matter, the water has no place else to go, so it leaches out into the street, under the street.
And have we had any discussions with Summit County regarding some type of recourse? In this case here with Johnson, they came back out, they repaved it.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes, we'll be following up on that. The county engineer's office is very well aware that we are not happy, and we are working with them on potential solutions. But the cores are going to be important as part of that.
And then, Carla, can you tell me on Ordinance 7, is there any emergency language in that?
No, there is not.
And how does that affect the timeline if that gets passed without emergency? It's going to have to set for 30 days after the mayor's signature, so that means it won't go into effect until tentatively April.
Yeah.
So is that going to mess that up? Or
I can call ODOT tomorrow and find out when they exactly want to start. I mean, I understand about not waiving the readings, but the emergency language.
That's what I wanted to make
would hope we would
sure.
at least have emergency language.
So
We
may
just
want
want
to give that
to
some
get under
consideration.
contract with that. I mean, it's not costing us anything, so we don't want to miss the boat on this.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. New business, any new business?
Mrs. Whipke, I have a subject, if I may.
New or old?
New.
Okay.
Did you move to new?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You and I spoke about this a tiny bit, but I would like to request an executive session next week, specifically to talk about land acquisition on the Cleveland-Maslin Road Phase 2. We are getting down to the bottom line, and there's a few properties that we need to talk about.
Okay. Shouldn't be any problem with that, Carla?
Nope.
Do you want it before or after
What would
work
be?
session? And the
do we
work session
already
is
have
on
attorneys
Tuesday.
It'll just be us.
After?
I'd go after, just so the public
After.
doesn't have to wait.
Yeah, I think it'll just be us. I was just debating if I should bring in the, yeah, I think it'll just be us, at least. If you guys have more questions, then we can bring somebody else in.
A special, yes. It'll have to be special.
Yeah, we have to go through a special, if I may, we meet, I think.
But we could do that before or after the
Correct.
committee meeting.
That's up
Well,
to
just,
you.
if you need to bring somebody in like that we're paying, then let us know, and
Yeah,
We
I
can
don't,
move it to
I don't
the
know.
before.
Mr. Markey, I don't think we need anybody else at this point, do you?
I don't think so.
but I believe we're looking at Board of Control next week as
We are
well.
probably going to need a Board of Control.
Any other new business? Public service announcements. Any public service announcements?
Thank you. I have a couple. Thank you, Madam President. Norton Music Boosters Night at the Races is February 24th, 6:30 p.m., Houston Hall. Again, it's sponsored, Norton Music Boosters are sponsoring the event. That is on the 24th. The next day, Saturday, February 25th, we've got the Norton Kiwanis 15th Annual Chili Cook-Off. Again, Saturday, February 25th, that's at the Norton Community Center. Chili entry fees are $6. Drop-off chili entries from 2 until 3 o'clock on the day of the event. We have Scotch Doubles time. It's the Norton Women's Club on Saturday, February 25th, so you can go to chili cook-off in the morning and then go to Scotch Doubles in the evening. That starts at 7 o'clock from 7 until 10 p.m. Cost is $42 per couple. It includes dinner, bowling, shoes, and a door prize. That's pretty much all I have for that. Central Collection Agency taxpayer assistance for city income tax filing. Staff from CCA will be at the community center. It will be Wednesdays in March 1st, the 8th, the 22nd, from 1 until 7 p.m., and then again on Wednesday, April 5th, from 1 to 7, and Thursday, April 13th, from 1 to 7. That is also available on our city website. Last but not least, we have our Norton Bicentennial for 2018. We are still seeking interested volunteers to form committees for planning celebrations of the Norton Bicentennial in 2018. That is all I have. Thank you very much.
Public updates, are there any public updates? Carla?
I have my Easter thing. I've received my first donation today from a Norton resident, so we're getting started, a little slow, but I'm taking them till March 16th, and I'm trying to come up with a challenge for the mayor's office, administration, police, and fire versus council, so
Wow.
I'll keep you tuned in.
Okay. All right, let us know.
Council's next regular meeting will be February 27th, 2017, at the regular time, 7 p.m. That being stated, with no further business come before council, this meeting is adjourned at 7:56.
Got a toy.